Boys, I got a question for you guys today.
What's up?
What's going on?
First of all, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Ooh.
Probably nothing.
Probably gonna play Lego Star Wars with Noah.
Oh, that sounds like a great Valentine's Day date.
That does sound pretty nice.
What about you? What are you doing?
Oh, actually, I'm going on a date with me, myself, and I.
You really baited us there.
What date is?
Man, you got my
it's a
hopes
Friday.
up.
Yeah, so I saw the way your eyes lit up, and I was like, oh, I can't do it to him like that.
Dang it!
It's
What is
a
it?
Friday night. Oh, you know what? Apparently there's like a alt night or something.
Okay, I might go to that.
I might go to
Can
that.
we do a boys' night?
But Saturdays are for the boys.
Yeah, but also like Valentine's night,
That's
Friday
true.
night could
That's
be
true.
for the boys as well. The
That's
single
true.
boys.
Yes, the single boys. We're not as cool as Mark or Jake Odie.
Yeah, well, Jacob Odie's still gonna be like
Oh, yeah,
kind
Jake-
of single
yep.
because his fiance's not here, so
That's
he'll probably
true.
be stuck hanging out with us instead of with his fiance. But
Yeah, with his baggy sweatpants.
how's your boys' weeks?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd say pretty solid. I've been productive.
Yeah, pretty good. I was sick for like half of this week, but other than that, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Any fun stories? Anything interesting happen? Noah decided to share his sickness with me. He was very
yeah.
kind. So
Sharing is
Sharing
caring,
is
after all.
caring.
I got the sickness as well, so I've been with that. So mine hasn't been very eventful, but maybe for you guys.
I re-dyed my hair. But, like,
Yeah.
you can't really tell.
You can tell like when you first walked in and was like, "Hey, I dyed my hair." I was like, "Oh yeah," but like if you hadn't said anything,
You would have noticed.
I probably wouldn't have noticed.
So I think I'm gonna like re-dye it again.
That's fair. What
Yeah,
color are you
after I
going?
get paid. Going for more of a blonde color, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
I might.
Okay.
Who knows?
We'll see. We'll see how it works out. Oh, actually, do have something kind of funny, I guess.
Oh really?
So there's this room in the BTS that I had no idea existed until today. But there's like this giant screen in there, and there's
Is it
a
like a
giant
collaboration
spiral
room?
staircase. No, it's like a classroom.
Really?
It's like, so when you walk into the BTS, there's like the classroom right on the left, and then like kind of tucked in that corner, there's this big room. It has like this big, like a big screen on the wall, and a giant spiral staircase that like goes up. But so tonight we were taking pictures for Alpha Chi, the organization I'm a part of, and we decided to all get on the spiral staircase to try and take a picture.
Nice.
And let's just say that many boys on a staircase is probably past the weight limit because the thing was
yeah.
like violently shaking
Joint was creaking.
with every step. It was creaking bad. So we like quick all ran up, just took one picture and then got down because we were kind of worried it was gonna like,
Nice.
fall. But yeah. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode of College Years with your hosts, Noah the pastor,
Hello?
Steven the programmer,
Hey.
and Jonny the photographer. Steven, you want to quick give us a one-sentence synopsis of what we're going to be talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about school and how we were educated growing up. This is from K to 12th grade.
All right, sounds good. But before we jump into that, as always, follow all of us on our Instagrams. Follow College Years on their Instagram. Gives you updates on when stuff is going live. Remember, we have an episode that goes live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Also, buy our stickers on Redbubble. Of one is pictured right here-ish. They're pretty sweet. And yeah, lastly, before we jump right into the topic, here is a quick word from our sponsor.
Okay, welcome back. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about how we were educated. And first off, I'm going to start off with a question. It's going to be a lot of questions. How were you guys educated? Starting with Noah.
I was public schooled, I'm pretty sure, my entire life.
All right, sweet. So I kind of check a lot of the boxes of schooling. Started out public school, then I moved on to charter school from 1st to 5th grade or something like that. And then moved on to a private school from 6th grade through my sophomore year, and then I homeschooled my junior and senior year.
All right, sweet. I was homeschooled, basically K through 12th grade. In 11th grade, I did dual enrollment until I graduated high school in college.
Cool.
So yeah. So what do you think? Starting with Noah, what was one advantage that you see in being public schooled?
Yeah, so when it comes to public school, you get one, just being able to do sports and a bunch of extracurriculars. Even with my sort of more rural school, we still had like a lot of sports. Sports were big in that community, and there was just a bunch of stuff you could do. I ended up playing football for all 4 years of high school. And on top of that, I also was able to be exposed to like a lot of different worldviews that I wouldn't have if I was Christian schooled or if I was homeschooled my entire life. And I know a lot of things, some of the things I probably shouldn't know, but I feel like I have a better platform for understanding different people's worldviews with some teachers, people I knew in high school, and with those conversations.
Quick question. What position did you play in high school?
So I wasn't the greatest player, so I was a scout, but I played tackle and anywhere on the defensive line.
Okay, sweet. What about you, Johnny?
So for me, I guess like for our conversation, I'll kind of focus on the charter school and the private school because that's kind of the schooling that's unique to me. But for I think some of like the advantages I saw of a charter school through those early years, my charter school was very focused on like arts and academics. So like we had electives of all forms of art. And although like at the time we lacked like sports teams, which is something I really wanted to get into.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about creativity and a lot about art that like I probably wouldn't have at any other kind of school. So I think that was kind of like an advantage at the time. I thought that was cool. I think like biggest advantage of a private school is a Christian-centered education.
Yeah.
I had Bible classes. I had chapel every week. In all of the curriculum, it was Christ-centered. And I thought that was probably the biggest advantage of being able to go to a Christian school like that.
I think one of the advantages for homeschooling that I thought of, again, I'm super biased. I loved being homeschooled and even dual enrollment. That was fun. But like one of the biggest advantages I would say of being homeschooled was the faculty to student ratio, honestly. Like, if we're going to be honest, your teacher is literally your parent, and they can walk you through when you're struggling and things like that.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the biggest advantage I would see.
Okay.
On the flip side of that, what is the biggest disadvantage that you think in your education?
Yeah, so there was a lot of like sinful stuff that I was exposed to, stuff that I really shouldn't have known. I mean, there was a chance I would have been, but I was basically guaranteed to encounter that, as well as just having to actually like start knowing theology and doing stuff. I had to go outside to do that, and like reading my Bible was hard every time I tried to start that up, and getting into prayer was hard because just the environment did encourage that, and I'm a huge procrastinator, so that just makes it that much worse.
Yeah. I think for me, starting with charter school, as much as like art was also a cool thing, it was also kind of a big disadvantage because it was basically the main focus.
It's an art school, basically.
Of that. It was an art school, and it was very liberal art schools. The school itself was very liberal, which again, that's why like I probably would categorize it as more of just like a public school that focused on art.
Yeah.
So I was definitely like kind of opened up and shown to a lot of public school things, things that I didn't necessarily like need to see at a younger age.
Arts people got a lot of free time on their hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm watching this for inspiration.
And
Oh gosh.
and one of the biggest disadvantages of that is because it was only because it was so focused on art that like you didn't have much opportunity for sports. You didn't have much opportunity to be able to pursue that. Like I grew up playing soccer basically my whole life besides those few years in between that like they didn't have a soccer team, and it wasn't until one of the last years I was there where they started a basketball team for the middle schoolers. So like there was just very little you could do besides art. And then also with private school, they did have soccer, which was fantastic.
Yep.
But they had like the basic soccer, basketball. So like they didn't have a football team. There was no lacrosse. Like there wasn't as many opportunities because they were a private school with sports, but also with with extracurricular things or like some AP classes. Dual enrollment like was lacking of that school. So there's like a lot of stuff that probably could have helped further my future education that they just didn't have because they were a small school.
Yeah. I would say like one of the different disadvantages that I had was like I was the firstborn child, so I was kind of like the guinea pig for homeschooling.
Yeah.
One of the things that like, and I'm glad that my mom was able to use me as a guinea pig.
Yeah,
'Cause, like
yeah.
I turned out fine, I think.
Just kidding. No, you're great.
But like
I honestly couldn't tell. Like, I did not know you were a homeschooler.
Yeah,
Really?
There's
I
like,
could not
there's like
tell.
the some people that you can
yeah,
like
you like
tell they're
there's
homeschooled.
people-
you homeschool.
Yeah.
There's people
Like,
that you just
I-
like watch them walking, and you're like, yeah, that's a homeschool.
Yeah.
I could not tell you were
Yeah,
homeschooled.
a lot
honestly,
of a lot of people think like the social aspect of the disadvantage would be like the social aspect
Yes.
of homeschooling.
Yeah.
I can agree with that to an extent. Like I would
Okay.
say I had a very like close, small knit circle of friends.
Yeah.
Starting in elementary school, then middle
Okay.
school kind of progressed, and then high school I'm like I know everybody. Like
So can I ask, like,
Yeah.
where did you meet your friends that you hung out with while you were homeschooling?
yeah, so in elementary school and like elementary school was basically church.
Okay.
In middle school, church, and then like that's when you start getting into co-ops and things like that.
Okay.
And like tutorials, and then also sports teams. And then I would say high school, it was the gauntlet: work, sports, church, just other extracurricular activities. And that's where my friends have come from. I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I also had a couple of online friends.
Okay.
That was just like that's just me being bored sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that for sure. But
Oh geez. Next question. What is I'm gonna ask. They're kind of like two questions. A stereotype of like the people that came from your school, but also a stereotype that you have of a different form of schooling.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to start that one off?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with charter and then know if you want to hit public, and I'll go back to private so we can kind of go back and forth. So the stereotype of charter school is definitely where's your uniform, and it's all this
Oh, yeah.
proper kind of thing, which by the way, we were one of the only charter schools that I know of that didn't have a uniform at all.
Nice.
We actually had a more lenient dress code than my private school. But so, yeah. But I think definitely like I'm trying to remember the stereotype that came out of like that school specifically, but it definitely was just like those people that are all focused on art and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and that were very liberal in
Type of people to say vibes unironically.
yes, yeah, yeah, lots of kind of like the stereotypical like hipsters.
Oh gosh.
For sure. Yeah, that's probably I'd say that's probably the stereotype that came out of that, and then I'll do like the stereotype for public school, and Noah can get the homeschool one. I feel like growing up, just like the stereotype for public school is just partiers.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like starting out of public school and then going to like charter and private, just kind of like all I heard was, oh, they're partying.
Disney.
Like-
Disney has a lot to do with that. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that was probably just like the biggest stereotype umbrella term for like public school kids that I always heard was that they were just big partiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a stereotype that I don't disagree with. With public schoolers, the big one is they party, they do stuff, they do dumb stuff all the time, which is for some people true, some not. That's just the nature of stereotypes. And for homeschoolers, a lot of times it was like, super religious fundamentalist pulling up in the 20,000 passenger van.
It's serious when your minivan is not a minivan anymore and you have to use diesel gas to move it.
I definitely agree with that stereotype.
One week when we were going to church, like a couple weeks ago, I just look over to my left, and there's just the most stereotypical homeschooler van that I've ever seen, and I just groaned under my breath. I was just like, oh yeah. And just kids just piling out, and the dad helping some of them, and I was just like, oh my goodness.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so moving to the private school stereotype, definitely one of the biggest ones you always hear is private schoolers are rich, which is 100% not the case. There are some, but some people are not.
Yeah.
And also that a lot of private schoolers are just stuck up and think they're better than like the average public schooler. Which I mean, I've definitely seen some of that, but I don't think that definitely not every private school would fit into that stereotype.
Yeah. And with playing football, that's like the stereotype I heard about private schoolers the most every time, we talk about we're playing some private school coming up and just like being plugged into sports. It was just like, it was always like, oh, they're super snobby. They're all hypocrites, It's just the stuff you hear repeated over and over. It was, it was what we always heard.
Yeah. And playing like other private schools and other private Christian schools, we'd hear like the same thing about like the schools that sometimes shared the same name as us but just had different locations. We'd hear that same stereotype and see it occasionally for sure.
Oh yeah. So I'd say the biggest stereotype with homeschooling is the social aspect. Like, but like that's a boring answer, so I'm gonna change it up. Another stereotype I would hear about homeschoolers is that they don't do any work. Now, I'm not going to say that is 100% not true, because there's definitely been times where I just straight coasted.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is easy, but like, I will say like I work like a ton of people I know like work their butt off to get to the place that they are now.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like, I'm like, to hear that, and also another thing was another thing was that I was taking the SAT, and like it was a Saturday, and like I don't know how it got brought up, but someone was like, yeah, I heard some homeschoolers are taking this test too. They're like, homeschoolers, man, shoot, I would love to just sit around in my room all day playing video games in my pajamas. And I was like, oh, kill me now. like I can't believe this right now. But yeah, that was basically those are some of the like main stereotypes for homeschoolers. The stereotypes that homeschoolers had for other children, for other school types. Public school, like we all know, public school is kind of like bad. Like the bad homeschool kids got sent to public school. Or like the bad public school kids are now homeschooled.
Are homeschooled.
You know those types of homeschoolers.
Oh yeah.
And then private school, like we honestly saw private schools way worse. At least the friend group that I was in.
Okay.
The private schools, it was specifically like private Catholic schools. We like those guys were like, whoa. But like I have friends that are private Catholic schools.
Yeah,
they're, like, super chill.
And I mean, there's definitely some like private schools in Noanai's area as well that were like, that's kind of just a glorified public school.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was I know there's one like right in central Muskegon that basically there was always the talks of them like recruiting for their football team because they had a dominant football team. And there's that stereotype of Catholic schools that recruit for football teams because they're in really low divisions, so they just dominate.
Yeah.
And the playoff brackets for them are mostly like private schools and especially private Catholic schools. So there's that stereotype under that is that they recruit for athletics by giving scholarships and crap.
Yeah. Wait, you can get scholarships for private school?
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Like I cannot say with confidence, but that's like what was always said. You
Mhm.
know, when you're around your teammates, when you're around coaches, that's what they'd always say.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely, because you're paying money to get there, so like
Big money.
yeah. But there were always the rumors that there were certain schools that were giving out scholarships for
Mhm.
certain people, and people were transferring for certain reasons, and that's why like the MHSAA, the like Michigan sports whatever it is,
League.
has different rules
Yeah.
to try to combat that, but also like there's if schools wanted to, I don't know how much like
Yeah, how
anyone
much you
could
could
do to stop it. So like there was always rumors, but that's all it ever was rumors.
Mhm.
At least for me, I never saw any concrete
Yeah.
evidence or proof, but it definitely could have been.
It's always
Done.
weird when that like 7th-year senior shows up. You're like, bro, like you 21, you're legally allowed to drink. How are you allowed to play against me? I'm a freshman in high school.
I'm a
Like,
freshman in high school. Why do you have a beard and a wife?
Yeah. So speaking of sports, what
Yeah.
are some of the extracurricular opportunities that you had? Not really unique, but kind of like something
Kind
that
of-
was like a staple in your
Yeah.
school.
So like going to the charter school, it was very art oriented. So we have a place called Blue Lake, which is like this art academy that people can go to in over the summer. It's like I think it's something that's like kind of hard to get into. I've never
Mhm.
really paid much attention to it, but that was always like a really big thing at our school. A lot of people wanted to go to it for performing arts or for all the different kinds of art, and it was definitely like there was extracurriculars put in place to help people get into those, and to definitely focus on those, and it definitely looked better on like a resume to get into a place like that
Oh,
you
yeah.
went to like basically an art school, and literally anything and everything you can think about that has to do with art, that's whether it's music or painting or sculpting. There was all those extra things that that like the charter school had that like I didn't really see anywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't even necessarily say they were extracurriculars. It was more just kind of built into the program of the thing, because as far as extracurriculars, there really wasn't a lot.
Gotcha.
That's that. But yeah. No, what about you with public school?
Well, first thing is sports, because especially with my community, they just love sports. They love sports. Like we've had a dominant football team since like the '70s, so like people keep coming back for that.
Mhm.
Consistently placing the playoffs. We have a good basketball program, and there's a lot of sports. There were clubs. There weren't many because it was sort of a rural school, smaller school, so there weren't as many of those. There was a student council which I did my freshman year. Ended up not really liking it because it was just like this is not. This isn't for me. It's like not gonna
Yeah, that's
grow
fair.
me in any way.
That's fair.
Sort of boring. So I opted on out of that. But I never really looked into those that much because I grew up a super shy kid, so
Mhm.
I wasn't very social in the first place, and I didn't care much about
Yeah.
extracurriculars. Really, the only reason I got into football is because my dad, who's coached football for quite a few years, I can't put a number on it, but he sort of pushed me towards it, got me to work out with the football team in the summer, and eventually he convinced me to like try it out my freshman year. Ended up liking it, stayed with it for the rest of high school.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Extracurriculars played sports basically from 3rd grade up until now. Basketball,
Mhm.
swimming, soccer type thing. Flag football. I will say this is kind of a tangent. This is why I didn't play football in high school.
Yeah.
We were in a playoff game. It was a close game, and I just remember I got the throw from my quarterback.
Mhm.
I'm like, the ball is coming to me. Some kid, I knew he was like 16. We were in middle school, but he was like 16. Grabs a one-handed interception and takes it the other way. I was like, at that
Oh my
point, I
gosh.
quit. I was like, I'm not gonna play high school football. I'm not even gonna try. That just that rocked my world. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You rage quit football.
I literally rage quit football because some tall guy
Wow.
intercepted. Yes.
That's so tough.
It evens out.
Yeah. But sports are kind of the big thing in homeschool because like you have like those kids like, oh, you know, you're homeschooled and you play sports, and then there's these kids that like they were homeschooled so that they can play sports and so that they can get better.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you have people like
you can
Serena.
focus on it more. Yeah.
Yep, Serena Williams,
Yep,
Blake
yep.
Griffin.
Yep.
I think LaMelo Ball, people like that. And then also, along with sports, there's also, I have not met a homeschooler that has not played piano.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
wow.
Yeah.
like that's like
or some instrument.
oh yeah, because like you're like oh yeah, like there are homeschoolers that I know that are like they talk about piano songs like it's a regular thing, like it's an actual song.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah, I heard about you know, so and so song, and I'm like, oh really? And I listen to it, and it's just a piano instrument. I'm like, huh?
This is 3 chords. What's going on here?
I know.
This is more basic than a worship song.
Oh my gosh.
hey,
Oh.
hey, don't do it to me.
He's not wrong. Though.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of where my extracurriculars.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So private school is like, again, we didn't have a ton. There was sports. We did soccer. It was a small enough school that basically, if you could walk, you had a good chance of starting,
Yeah,
or at least being like last man, or like like you had a good chance of
You were on the
being
team.
on the team. Yeah, if you could walk, you were on the team. There was like basketball, we had a JV and stuff because we had too many people. But like normally soccer, we had maybe 1 sub, 2 or 3 if we were like really lucky that year. So it was small enough. Oh, we tried to just get everybody to play because we didn't have enough people. And also everyone was normally 3-sport athletes because we needed everybody all year round
Yeah.
in order to have teams. What? Oh, that's fun. Just keep it going for now. We'll address that when it cuts. Sweet. That's a new thing. Yeah, sports were kind of the biggest thing at my school for sure. It's how a lot of people look to get scholarships outside of going toward college after high school.
Yeah.
My school also did like the National Honor Society, which I got inducted my sophomore year, but then I left, so I don't really know much about it. But it's like, I have no idea what it is.
Fun fact, I didn't do National Honor Society literally because I procrastinated on the paperwork too much.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So our school was just like, hey, you qualify. You got picked. You want to do it? And I was like, sure. And they're like, okay, write your name here. And I was like, okay, cool.
I was one of 2 people in the top 10 that didn't have an NHS sash.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So yeah, I have the little pin for it. Fun fact, because I was inducted. So like I can put that on my resume, but I never actually like served in it. But I think that's, yeah, it did like some service stuff. And we had like, one of the biggest things at my school was like, on one of the free hours, we had like an elective thing that we went by quarters and semesters, and each quarter that changed. So like there was one that was called iServe that was all about doing service projects. But that ranged from that all the way to a scuba class, a Pinterest class. A fun fact, I was one of 3 guys in that class.
No
It
dip, Sherlock.
could have been because we were just interested in a couple of girls that were in that class. Could have been dating at the time. That's basically why we did that. But that was kind of where we had like our extracurricular sort of thing with that, because again there wasn't a whole lot to it besides like what we did in class.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so moving on to that. Moving on. What were some of the struggles that you had in your Christian walk because of how you were schooled? Who wants to start that off?
Yeah, I'll start with charter school, because it was like technically like a public school or something. So there was like the rules that we weren't supposed to talk to God. I know we actually I had a friend and I that got in trouble our 5th grade year because we brought our Bibles and we started talking about it openly, and I think we started asking people about it. I don't remember if we had just heard, like, we just learned about sharing the gospel or what it was. For whatever reason, we were pumped about it. We wanted to share that good news, and we literally got censored by the school. We were like, you guys can't be talking about this. And we were like, don't we have like the constitutional right to be able to do this? But
I feel like there were a couple court cases about that during the Vietnam War.
I think there were too. But anyways, we were little 5th graders, so instead we just did it on the playground in secret where the teachers couldn't hear us.
Did you guys not have playground monitors?
We did, but like if we're sitting on the thing reading a book and they're way over there, they're like, whatever.
True.
Most of the time they're going to be following the people who are stinking playing cops and robbers and jumping and trying to do flips off things than the people just sitting in a corner reading a book.
Yeah, exactly. Them little kids that be eting cigarette butts.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the rag people. So we
just imagine eating a cigarette.
Oh God.
That unfortunately put that image into my head. That's gross.
No.
So yeah, that was kind of the first time that, like, growing up in the church, going to a school that, like, I knew there was other believers, but like that was kind of the first time I understood that, like, whoa, there's some places like I can't just openly talk about this, or I can't just openly pray, because apparently I'll get in trouble for that for some weird reason. And at the time I did not understand any of it. And that was like kind of the first time I felt like I was affected by my faith in like a charter school setting. But what about you with public school, Noah?
Yeah. When it comes to public school, it was very challenging coming up, especially it started becoming a challenge in my middle school years. That's when, a lot of kids just start thinking about bad stuff because puberty hits or has already hit for about a year. So, like, that just brings in all that new stuff that they're all of a sudden interested in. So it was difficult for me because, like, my discipleship was few and far between. I had church, but I wasn't very connected at the time in middle school. And even throughout my high school, it was difficult because I really didn't find any, like, Christian friends at my high school, unfortunately. There were a lot of people who claimed to be Christian and that went to church, but there was, like, I didn't have anybody that, like, that was consistent with it, that actually acted like it or looked like they even cared about it or pretended to care about it.
Yeah.
It was just, I get that's very common in public school environments because they don't make their faith their own, sort of fall away from it. But it was, especially like when I came into high school, it was just frustrating because at the time I didn't have any close friends my freshman and sophomore year. So I didn't really have any, other than youth group, I didn't have really any great outlets for discipleship. That wasn't until I went to Guatemala, I met you, Jonny, and I got closer with some other people, and we formed that friend group where I really started, like, getting good discipleship.
Yeah.
So just having that, and some teachers were great. So I had some Christian teachers who I absolutely loved. I had others who were had different worldviews. Just say that.
Yeah.
But it was challenging, but it pushed me in a good way because it got me at a very early time to actually start owning my faith. It wasn't just the youth pastor telling me, hey, you need to start owning your faith, and your youth leader saying, hey, you need to make your faith your own. It was actually like I was actually forced to do that just because of the environment I was in, and I needed to learn to stand up for that.
Yeah.
So it really pushed me in that right direction, but it also pulled me back because I had a hard time getting into Bible reading. It wasn't until I came to Cedarville that I started praying consistently. So it was really difficult not having that discipleship, but there was also that gain where I figured out my theology. Well, not figured out. I learned about theology and developed my faith a lot quicker than some private schoolers and homeschoolers do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, along the lines, like when I started going to community college, you just got, like, bum rushed with the world. It was like up until those years, I'd been exposed to everything, like you said. just through various circumstances. But like when it's part of your everyday life, it's a lot different, which is why I commend like public school Christians and private school Christians, because I'm like, you guys are exposed to that stuff all the time, and you guys, like, the Lord still like help you through it. I would say one of the biggest struggles with my faith and like how I was educated was that I had to make my faith my own, and that was something I didn't even realize until like 2016, which is like when I got saved. Is like that's when is like I had to make my faith my own, and I had to you know, in a sense, give my life to Christ. And so like another struggle was like just being surrounded by Christian culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to like snap into, hey, what about me personally? What is my walk looking like? Not just like worshiping on a Sunday, a type thing, youth group, you know, and things like that. So I would say that's probably the biggest struggle. So I was desensitized to my faith being surrounded like every aspect of my life.
Yeah, and I'll definitely piggyback onto that for private school, because desensitized was like gonna be my main word for the entire thing. Because when you're in a school that you have chapel and you have Bible classes and everyone claims to be a believer, it is very easy to just go through the motions, to know those Sunday school answers, to not really worry about making your faith your own and just kind of trying to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And that was definitely like my experience with it. Was just like literally just chilling, going through the motions, because I was so desensitized to it. There was Christianity in everything that we did, from like the actual school and the curriculum, just learning about science, to like our actual Bible classes. We were learning about God throughout all of it, that it just made it like very easy to make it more like educational and less of like an actual relationship with Jesus. And I think that's what I fell into quite easily with that, of just making it more of like a school topic for me and less of an actual relationship. But
Piggybacking the second time off of you.
Yeah,
I was sort of desensitized, but in a different way. I was desensitized to a lot of sin and to a lot of people's convictions. Because growing up with that public school environment, there were things that I didn't realize other people were sensitive to. Other Christians were like certain dress things. It still appalls me that people freak out about short shorts on girls and whatever. Like that stuff I saw on a day-by-day basis, when it was warm out at least. I saw on a day-by-day basis, so it didn't bother me. But I didn't realize that there's homeschoolers and some private schoolers that like were hardly exposed to that, and it can trip them up bad, and just like other conviction issues, where it took me a long time to get Romans 14 fully digestible. There's other passages, but Romans 14 is really like just has that as a big emphasis. So just learning to tread around people's convictions, and there's some things I have to resensitize myself to, like swearing. Absolutely. I'm very desensitized to. Yeah. So I have to learn to unsensitize. Luckily, I didn't really fall into too much swearing, so that was never an issue for me.
Yeah. This has been a fun discussion.
Yeah, I've actually really liked this.
This is like, I feel like we could do a part 2 to this.
We definitely could.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely think about that. And yeah, for people listening, watching, feel free to like ask specific questions about this.
Please.
And I'm definitely down to do a part 2 later down the road, to talk about this, because I feel like we kind of just started diving into it.
We could.
Like there's so many more stories I want to tell, so many more things I want to get into. But also we don't want to make this podcast 3 hours long, because then even less people would listen to it. So moving on. Question and answer time. We have 3 this week. Remember to keep asking those questions on Instagram, DM any one of us privately, or go to the College Years podcast Instagram and DM us there. Every once in a while we kind of put out on our stories asking for questions, but literally feel free to just straight up DM us. You don't have to wait for us to put that on to ask a question. or text us or ask us in person, literally whatever.
Oh,
Just
please. Yeah.
send us your questions. Also, send us any feedback you have. If we sound weird or if there's something we said that you really liked, feel free to let us know for sure. We'll take the encouragement or the constructive criticism.
I will say I am looking for constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
I've had
I want.
a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is cool and all, but what did we do wrong?
Yeah, like I want to know what we can actually work on to make this even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Um,
guys won't hurt our feelings. We want to improve.
Tell us how bad we are.
Yes, please. And even if you do hurt our feelings, it's not going to affect you right now. Now, when you do ask for me to co-sign on your loan, I will do that. But, like, that's just straight up unbiblical, so.
But all right, so
That's debatable.
moving forward to the questions. First one comes from Olivia056. What's y'all favorite animal?
Dogs.
Dogs?
What's specific breed?
Oh, that's a hard question for me. I really like beagles, and I also really like labs. So
Okay.
it's hard
Okay.
choice.
Okay. Steven?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I almost said something I was going to regret. But, I would say my favorite animal, probably any reptile, honestly. Reptiles are
Okay.
kind of cool to me. Like,
Okay.
I would like to own a reptile. But I
Like,
will say...
like snakes? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
cool,
snakes,
cool.
lizards, any of that. Also, I like dogs. Even though I'm deathly afraid of them. Like
Really?
you wouldn't notice if you brought me around a dog.
Yeah.
But like I'm
But inside,
planning,
you're just dying.
Oh, I am planning my escape.
That's how I feel about one of Noah's dogs. Actually,
Yeah.
Um,
That was
fun,
rough.
fun little story. Noah has a dog that's just.
She doesn't like strangers.
In our friends' words, vicious, and
She's a sweet dog.
to you
To
guys.
us.
She went at me the first time I saw her.
Nice.
So yeah, that's fun. She's probably the only dog I'm genuinely kind of nervous around.
Yeah.
And the other dog, when they came over for something, she peed on the couch.
Was so nervous she peed on the couch. So Noah has like the complete opposite
Yin and
of
yang.
dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your? Okay, I feel like we're gonna all have to answer this now. What's your favorite breed of dog?
Pugs.
Pugs.
You can't-
Okay.
You can't see it, but I'm wearing pug socks right now.
Hey,
Ooh,
my brother would
goodness.
appreciate that. My brother's a big fan of bulldogs.
Nice.
He likes the British or American. I'm sorry, Will. I don't remember what kind of bulldog you like, but he likes bulldogs.
I've never seen the appeal for some reason. I don't know why.
I kind of get it,
It's the
but
fat
like
rolls.
I think it's the fat rolls.
It's
I
the
think
fat
they're into the
rolls.
fat rolls.
They're mesmerizing.
I still don't see it.
That's fine. Well, you're into like labs, like you like lean dogs.
I like
Yeah.
big dogs and lead dogs.
All right. My favorite animal would be a monkey. If any of you guys know me, I'm a big fan of monkeys.
That mouse pad that needs to be replaced.
My mouse pad is a monkey that I drew in like 4th grade.
Nice.
Over there. Just like monkeys. Favorite breed of dog is Noah's gonna make fun of me. It's called a Pomsky.
A
Husky?
It is. He calls it a stinking pusky. It's not a
Hey,
pusky.
Ryan started that. You can't blame me. Blame
Pomsky.
Ryan.
A Pomeranian and a
And a
husky.
Pomeranian and a husky. It looks
It's
like
the greatest thing ever. But
if
it's
done
just
right-
fun to make him mad about
if
it.
done right, it looks like a baby husky its entire life. Look at this thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, look at those things. Like, amazing. I also like highly considered getting one. They're like $3,000, so I said no.
Why
They're.
is it so expensive?
I have absolutely no idea.
The breeding process for them must just be a pain.
Probably I don't understand,
Children,
but
children don't even cost that much amount. Like,
Whoa.
big fan of Pomskys. Also just like huskies in general and German shepherds.
yeah.
My ideal situation, I'd love to have
Huskies.
a German shepherd and a Pomsky one day.
nice.
But that's a dream because both of those dogs are expensive and wouldn't suit well in Guatemala.
yeah.
So yeah.
Ooh.
Moving on from Riley Woodall, what books are you guys reading right now, or what are some of your favorites? So I'm gonna say this can include books we've had to read for class, if you actually enjoyed them, because personally, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do personal reading recently, so probably gonna talk about those books as well. But
Bold of you to assume that I've ever cracked open a book that was not the Bible before. But if we're being serious, comic books. I'm
Okay.
a huge comic nerd.
favorite comic book? I'm
Um,
not gonna know it. but-
Spider-Verse series, I would say.
Oh, is there actually like a series based on that?
That's what.
Or the movie's based on the
yeah,
series.
The movie's
Okay.
based on the
Okay.
series.
That's
Fire
cool.
series.
That's cool. Noah, what about you?
I have a lot of favorite books, so I'm just the kind of person that can't read recreationally for some reason. It has to be for class. But that doesn't mean I don't genuinely enjoy some of the books. Like, one of the ones I had to read for class was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Is the pacing and just, like, the language is amazing in that book.
Yeah.
An academic book that I really enjoyed was... Oh, I forget the name, but it's the memoirs of a Vietnam War soldier, and it's sort of like broken up. I feel like everybody's read that one chapter from it, but we had to do a choice novel for my AP Lit class, and I chose that one, and like, it's just so well done. It's like, all the stories seem disconnected. They're sort of random, and they're not in a chronological order, but I think it really contributed to the overall theme of the book. And it was just like really enjoyable. The imagery is intense, and it's just very well written.
That's cool. I like that.
Why can't I remember the name of this book?
You'll remember it when
Think about it,
tomorrow in
and
biology.
yeah, at 8 a.m. tomorrow you'll be like, "Dang it, that's that book." So for me, I feel like any books I've read, like personally or like for class, are more nonfiction. Which I feel like I've kind of gotten into more. But like my favorite like fantasy book series that I read, I think I started in like 5th grade. It was called The City of Ember. I don't know if you guys ever had to read that for class
That
or
sounds
anything.
like a book name.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. And I really liked that, but also more recently, I've read From the Ground Up by Howard Schultz, who's the Starbucks man. Kind of just talks about business and that whole thing, and I thought that was really interesting. Also for sociology last semester, we had to like pick a book to read about like something that was going on, and I chose one called What to Expect When No One's Expecting, and that one's I won't dive into that, but that one was a really good one as well. And I also just finished one called, shoot, I should know the name of this, Destiny of the Republic for History 2. Is about Garfield and the President Garfield and his
like
kind
the
of whole
cat.
story. Not the cat, sorry. President Garfield, 20th president, that guy. Not the cat that likes lasagna. Kind of about his story and that whole thing. And the author did a really good job of showing that emotion, also humanizing the assassin and like going through everything. It was I thought that was just really good overall. But yeah, those are some of my favorites and what I've read recently. Our last question.
My buddy
remember-
Joel.
I remembered the title of the book. Well, I looked it up on Google, rather. It's The Things That They Carried by Tim. I already forgot the author's name. Hold on a minute.
Nice.
By Tim O'Brien.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't know how to say this name, but
Steven,
it's
you
my
wanna-
buddy Joel.
Okay.
Love you, Joel. He asks, "Is it hard being that good looking all the time?"
So, like,
I'm gonna kind of twist that question
I think-
and say, "What are your self care tips?"
Oh. Okay. I don't have any. I'm just kidding. You start.
I would say don't follow my example. Get a haircut every 2 weeks. And take a shower at least once a day.
Yep.
So I put very little into like grooming and stuff. Like I have my hair cut intentionally so I don't have to mess with it all day. So it's
That's working
Just-
smarter, not harder.
just clean yourself.
Just clean yourself,
That-
please.
That's like the very basic of self-care.
Yeah, I guess mine, I try to get a haircut every 2 to 3 weeks. I have a fairly short haircut. I also spend probably way too much time styling my hair in the morning. But use some great gel. Don't remember the name. But yeah.
Yeah, they don't need free sponsorship.
They don't need a shout out. If they want to sponsor us, they can hit us up. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's the third and final question of the week. To kind of wrap all this up, we want to thank you guys for listening. As always, Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the College Years Podcast. Noah?
Oh, goodbye.
Nope. What's your Instagram?
Oh, at Wretched Angelos.
Steven?
Oh, this man's getting ready to go to sleep. I know it's late. Dang, we got 8 a.m.
And I
tomorrow.
probably won't. Oh, shoot, biology.
Yeah, biology. Dang it. My Instagram is at Stefferless8.
All right. My Instagram is at Anchored Sonder. Remember, ask us the questions on in person, to DMing, to texting. Send us an email. Literally don't care. Just ask us some questions. And also give us some helpful feedback as well.
Yes,
Buy our stickers at Redbubble.
Oh, yeah.
And look into our sponsor for more. That helps us out. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff over all the platforms. We're on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube right now.
I will personally give you a high five if you share.
If I see
podcast.
our name on your Instagram story, we'll give you a high five.
Yeah.
And maybe pick one of you to get a sticker. Just a little
Incentive.
that might happen.
I'll buy the sticker.
It may or may not. Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
I
so
will
we
buy you a sticker if you promote our podcast.
Okay, in the next week, whoever shares us on your story and leaves a question, one of you will get a sticker.
Good clarification. One of you.
One of you, not all of you, just one of you. So you need to
Whoever does it first, ready, go.
Nope, not that either. Share us on your story, ask us a question, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a sticker.
Impromptu giveaway. I like it.
Absolutely, big fan of that. But this was Noah the Pastor.
Nope. Goodbye. That was a joke that time.
Steven the Programmer.
Hey.
And Jonathan the Photographer. We'll see you guys next week, and you've been listening to College Years.